All right, today we're going to unpack a new AI architecture called MAATS. And it's a big deal because it promises to solve one of the single biggest headaches for businesses that are trying to tap into the power of modern AI. So let's dive in. So what's at the heart of the problem? It's this constant battle, right? On one hand, you have the unbelievable power of these massive cloud-based AIs, but on the other, you have the absolutely critical need to keep your company's data private and secure. For a long time, it's felt like you had to pick one. But what if you didn't have to choose? Okay, so let's really dig into this dilemma, because it's something practically every CTO is wrestling with right now. It really is a massive tug-of-war between two completely different ways of thinking about AI. And here are the trade-offs, laid out plain and simple. In one corner, you've got the heavyweight champions, the global cloud models like GPT-4. They're incredibly powerful, but you pay for it in high token costs, and you have to ship your sensitive data out to a third party. In the other corner, you have on-premises AI. You get to lock down your data completely, which is fantastic for security, but you're often sacrificing a lot of that cutting-edge AI power. And this is exactly where MAATS comes into the picture. Instead of picking a side in that tug-of-war, it proposes something different, a hybrid, two-brain solution that's designed to give you the best of both worlds. The secret sauce behind MAATS is this concept of distributed cognitive load. Now that sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of relying on one giant, expensive brain in the cloud for everything, MAATS cleverly splits the work. It uses a smaller, super efficient brain that lives on site and only calls out to the big, powerful brain in the cloud when it absolutely has to. It's just a smarter way to manage the workload. This chart really lays out that two-brain idea perfectly. You've got your local right brain. Think of it as the on-site manager. It's fast, cheap, and handles all the day-to-day stuff, all the routine work without breaking a sweat. And then you have the global left brain. This is your expensive consultant, the specialist you bring in for the really deep, complex analysis, the heavy lifting. So how does this actually play out? Let's walk through it. A request comes in, and it always hits the local right brain first. If it's a simple task, like monitoring a system, bam, it's handled right there. No data leaves the building, costs are minimal. But if the task is a real head-scratcher, the right brain does something very smart. It packages up a tiny, anonymized, minimized query and sends only that to the left brain. When the powerful answer comes back, the local brain takes it and integrates it, remaining in control of the whole process. Now, this clever setup isn't just for show. It leads directly to the two things that every single enterprise is chasing with AI: saving a ton of money and keeping their data absolutely secure. Let's look at the payoff. First, let's talk about the cost savings, because they are potentially huge. Because that local right brain acts as a smart gatekeeper, you're not constantly pinging those expensive global APIs for every little thing. The analysis suggests this kind of smart routing could slash your calls to those big, pricey models by up to 40%. For a large company, that's a massive drop in their AI spending. Of course, saving money is awesome, but it's only half the battle. So what about the other, arguably more important side of the coin? How does MAATS handle data security? Well, it all comes down to its unique approach to memory. And to understand that, we have to talk about something called the memory trilemma. It's this huge challenge in AI where you're constantly trying to balance three competing needs. You need accuracy to make sure the AI is pulling the right information. You need low latency so it can respond in real time. And you need to manage the cost so the whole system doesn't become ridiculously expensive. It is a very tricky balancing act. MAATS tackles this trilemma head-on with its secure memory solution. It uses things like memory segmentation and strict access controls to prevent data leaks. It also stops something called memory poisoning, which is just as nasty as it sounds. It basically stops a bad actor from feeding your AI bad or malicious information. And most importantly, it has robust systems to ensure that only scrubbed, non-sensitive data ever gets sent to the cloud. So what's really interesting is that this unique architecture doesn't just solve a tech problem. It actually creates a whole new market opportunity, a physical piece of hardware, a dedicated right brain appliance. And this quote from the analysis just nails it. The vision here isn't just for software you download. It's an all-in-one box, a pre-configured appliance that a company could literally plug into its server rack to immediately start solving that power versus privacy problem. Now you might be thinking, why a physical box? Well, it makes a ton of sense for a few big reasons. First, you've got strict security mandates in fields like finance, healthcare, and government, where sending certain data to the cloud just isn't an option, period. Second, it gives you predictable costs. Owning the hardware is often cheaper in the long run than paying volatile API fees. And finally, the timing is just perfect. We are right in the middle of a revolution in small language models, or SLMs. These are models powerful enough to be the right brain, but they're also super efficient, meaning they can run on affordable hardware. This makes a dedicated appliance not just possible, but really practical. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, the MATS model really is a new, pragmatic way forward. It's a hybrid approach that says, hey, we're not going to ignore the incredible power of cloud AI, but we're also not going to ignore the very real-world needs of an enterprise when it comes to security, compliance, and cost. And this all leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on. Is the future of enterprise AI just a bigger, more powerful brain in some distant data center? Or could it be a smart, secure, and efficient little box sitting right there in your own office, working in perfect harmony with the cloud? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for watching.